when I went to his graduation that night,
Hmm.
I mean, obviously he looked ever so handsome because he was wearing a tux and,
Hmm.
his buddy pals. Um, and I just remember that night when they were taking photographs.
Hmm.
Carlos was on this side and he put his arm on my shoulder, but his hand was literally trembling.
Oh my goodness.
I know, bless his heart. And as I felt his hand trembling, something inside me went, "Oh, this is the one." And then I'm like,
Oh.
Sheona, come on, calm down. No, it's not. No, calm down. Stop that. But literally, something inside me just said, yeah, this is the one.
Love stories fill us with joy and inspire hope for the future. And a true life romance can remind us that sometimes just one spark is all it takes to change everything. Hello, and welcome to Unexpected Love Stories. I'm your host, Don Prushkovsky, and you're going to really enjoy today's story. Our incredible guest is Sheona Gordon Mackey. She was born in Scotland, but she grew up in London. And as a young woman, she took a missionary trip to Guadalajara, Mexico, and that was in 1991. So, I have a heart for going on missionary trips. Well, at first she planned to stay 6 months on her mission trip, but she immediately fell in love with Mexico, which is so easy to do. Our family took its first trip to Cancun just a few months ago, and we all agreed that the people in Mexico are so lovely and the country is so beautiful. So picture this. This is the setting where Shiona meets Carlos, her husband. Well, today, Shiona works as a life consultant and an interpreter in Spanish, English, and sometimes French. Her husband's an architect, and they both assist their church pastor in the prophetic ministry and in leading worship and preaching. So let's go down to Mexico and dive into this unexpected love story and find out how a 6 month missionary trip turned into the love of a lifetime. Welcome, Shiona.
Thank you so much, Dawn.
Oh, it's so nice to have you here.
It's wonderful to be
Oh,
here with you.
oh, good. We can't wait to hear your story. So, take us back to 1991.
Hmm.
So, what prompted you to, first of all, go on this mission trip to Guadalajara, all the way from the UK?
Well, I studied languages in London. I actually studied French, Spanish, and Italian, and I always wanted to travel. Um,
Hmm.
and long story short, after different offers in Rome, in Paris, I knew it wasn't right. My pastor came up to me in June of 1990. He said, "Hey, Shiona, why don't you think about going to Mexico for maybe 6 months to help Pastor
Hmm.
John?" And I said, "I'd love to." And it felt like I had been in the desert for years and somebody had thrown a bucket of cold, wonderful, delicious water on
Mm.
me. And I said, "Yes, this is it." So I met the pastors in October of 1990, and January
Hmm.
1991, I was here, arrived on the.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes,
Big difference between where you were and where you are, as
huge.
far as, yeah, yes, yes. So, what did you do helping the pastor?
My goodness me, what didn't I do? I did everything. I would help them with their children. I would help them with the housework, with the messenger
Hmm.
stuff at church. I used to work a lot with the youth. We would go to the civil hospital here and go pray for the sick. We used to go and visit people in old folks' homes. And basically, wherever they sent me, I was there.
And I'm sorry, how old were you at this time?
I was 24 and I had my
Okay.
25th birthday that year.
Oh, good. So lots of energy
Yes,
to do all those things.
yes.
Okay. So you're there, and at what time did you start deciding I'm going to stay here?
Well, as I said, I fell in love with Mexico the first day, but after 6 months, I said, no, I'm staying. And
Mm,
yeah, so Pastor John said to me, "Hey, Shiona, do you realize you're going to have to do something about getting funded? Because I know that they're sending you offerings from London right now, but you cannot
hmm.
get offerings. You're going to have to get a job." So, yes, I decided to stay
Mm.
and get a job.
So you stayed and you got a job. Was it using your interpretation skills or?
Well, funnily enough, it wasn't. I took a teacher training course, and actually, for 31
Mhm.
years, I used to be an English teacher um,
Oh.
in all the levels. I mean, teaching
Mhm.
Cambridge, all the levels. So, but in the last 3 years, that's where I've done all the interpreting and life consultancy.
Oh,
Yeah.
love that. Love that. Okay, so when did you meet Carlos?
I met him in 1992. We were at
Okay.
an Easter retreat with his church. A friend of
Mhm.
mine introduced. Well, she invited me to the retreat, but I wasn't formally introduced to Carlos. So anyway, I was in the swimming pool, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Only mad dogs and Englishmen are out in the midday sun, as they say. But I had this idea the sun was going to go and hide away like it does in London. So 2 o'clock, I
Mhm.
was in the swimming pool, like standing there trying to get some kind of tan, and along comes Carlos.
Mhm. And don't leave us hanging.
Oh, okay. So he said, "So who are you?" And I said, "Sheona Meki." He said, "All right. Who did you come with?" I said, "Well, with our friend." Okay.
Mhm.
"What do you do?" I said, "I'm an English teacher." I said, "What about you?" He said, "I'm finishing my degree in architecture." I said, "Oh, okay." And then, "What church do you go to?" I'm like, "Oh, Camino." So I'm kind of like getting a little bit irritated because I'm yeah, like trying to get my suntan, and he's behind me, and I'm looking back. And then he said, "Can I jump in and swim with you?" I said, "Sure, the pool's available for everybody." I didn't think anything. So no sooner had he jumped in than his two friends came by and said, "Carlos, Sheona, it's lunchtime. Get out of the pool and come and eat." So they interrupted us, but we were having a nice conversation.
Okay, so you met him. Safe to say it wasn't love at first sight?
No, it wasn't. And I gotta let you into a secret. My friend was actually madly in love with him, and so there's no way I would have ever, got involved. Even though
Mhm.
they were just friends. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I'm like, oh, this is the Carlos she's been talking about, right? Okay, I'm gonna keep my distance.
Mhm. Mhm. But was he cute?
He was cute, and I didn't even notice that, like his looks, but it was his lovely personality that really
Mm.
touched my heart. Such a kind gentleman, really. That's
Oh,
what
I love that. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yes. So he, you find out who he is. You're keeping your distance apart. But what made you start to be drawn to him? What started to happen?
Well, 2 years later, we met. It is such a funny story. We met in the bank. Now, God had told him I was in the bank, but he thought, oh no, that's not true. So he goes to the bank. There's a big long line. I'm standing there. I'd been there for an hour and a half. And he goes up to the counter, turns around, sees me, and says, "Oh, she is here." So we had this like half an hour conversation in the bank. And
Hmm.
he was going on about, the youth group. And oh, that was another thing. I forgot to say that I led the youth group from when I started, doing the missions. And also was in the worship band. So we were exchanging information about our two groups and everything. He said, "Oh, we really should get our youth groups together. And yes, remember, we have the retreat again. Remember when we met? We have another retreat." He said, "I hope you're going." So I said, "Oh, yes, yes, yes." So anyway, that was the conversation. And then he said, "Oh, by
Hmm.
the way, I'm graduating in June." And I just piped up like, "Oh, you should invite me. I'll come and be your cheerleader. Charlie Brown, Charlie Brown." And I said it in all innocence, just like, "Hey, I'm your cheerleader." That was all.
Uh-huh.
But he took me seriously.
Mm.
And
Mm.
he was
Mm.
the one that spent 3 months trying to get my phone number. My friends wouldn't give it to him.
What?
No. And he ended up getting the number of the school where I worked. And that's
Hmm.
how he contacted me
That's
about his
crazy.
graduation. I know.
Oh my goodness. So he was attracted to you.
Yes. He said Cupid's arrow hit that day in the swimming pool.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, so um, what memorable impressions did you have after that of him?
Well, when I went to his graduation that night,
Hmm.
I mean, obviously he looked ever so handsome because he was wearing a tux and,
Hmm.
his buddy pals. Um, and I just remember that night when they were taking photographs.
Hmm.
Carlos was on this side and he put his arm on my shoulder, but his hand was literally trembling.
Oh my
I
goodness.
know, bless his heart. And as I felt his hand trembling, something inside me went, oh, this is the one. And then I'm
Oh.
like, Sheona, come on, calm down. No, calm down. Stop that. But literally, something inside me just said, yeah, this is the one. So that was his
Mm.
graduation.
Oh, I love
The
that.
event, the party.
Hmm. Hmm. So you didn't really have to even question it. You just knew this is the one.
Yes, inside, yeah. I mean, I did doubt myself. I'm thinking, oh, come on. Is this
Mm-hmm.
really, really? You're not
Mm-hmm.
inventing this, Shiona? But I just felt it. That was at the beginning. Okay.
Uh-huh. I love that. Okay, so it's at the beginning. You're feeling this,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously you can't just walk up to him and go, "Hey,
Mm-mm.
I just really feel like you're the one."
No, 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 of course not.
And of course, we've always heard the horrible things of God told me you're the one. So that's like such
No,
no, don't never something never ever to do.
no, no.
So what did you do now that you have this knowing?
Well,
How did you proceed with this?
that's a really good question. I prayed because I had already said to God back in 94, I had literally got down on my knees and I said to him, look, Father, you choose. You choose. You know me better than I do, and you know what's best for me. So the night we went to his graduation, he said, "Oh, I'll contact you again." So the following week, he called me, and it was to see the photographs of the
Oh,
graduation.
okay.
That was like
Hmm.
his pretext. So
Hmm.
we were. Oh, he said he was going to take me back early, at 6 o'clock because he had to work on his dissertation, his thesis for his to finish everything. And we
Hmm.
didn't get back till 10 o'clock after having our ice cream and chatting for hours. And as we were talking, I felt like he had gone into my journal and seen my deepest secrets because I'm thinking, how does he know everything he was saying? I'm like, but this is what I've always wanted. So I got back to my apartment that night at 10 o'clock and I said to my roommate, I said, Ailsa, this is a man I'm going to marry. And she looked at me, she said, Shiona, this is only the second date. Well, it's not even a date. This just twice you've been out with this man. I said, I know it's crazy, but anyway, okay. All right, I'm just going to calm down. So from there, he was the one who would initiate and say, oh, why don't we go to the park or why don't we have a chat? And so for the next 6 weeks or so, we would just meet up as friends, honestly, completely
Mm.
as friends and nothing else. And I had literally said to God, as I said, look, God, you're in control. I'm not going to get my hopes up high. This is what
Hmm.
I'm handing everything over to you. So,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. So
But
because
something,
if he said this is it, then I'm not going to take it and try to do it myself. Yeah.
no, 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 no. But there is a really funny turn to this. I don't want to go ahead with your questions, but something funny.
No, no, that's actually the next thing. My next
Good.
question was, what was a funny or awkward moment that
Okay.
yes.
Oh, wait. This is just so hilarious. Okay, so here we go. One day, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Carlos and I were just sitting watching a movie. He had some
Mhm.
spare time. I had some spare time. And the doorbell rings. So it's this lady from his church who lived around the corner from me. But the lady was the biggest gossip that I knew. So
Mhm.
she rings the bell and Carlos answers. And she goes, "Oh, Carlos! Oh, Shiona! Um, ah." So she had these frying pans, and she said, "Well, I've come to give your friend back her frying pan." So she walks into the kitchen, and she's like, um, "So is your friend okay?" And she's looking around the apartment, looking everywhere. Is like I'm thinking, what is this woman thinking? So she goes in, leaves the frying pans in the kitchen. She said, "Well, I'll be going now." Like snooping
Oh
around.
my goodness.
Oh my goodness. So anyway, Carlos shuts the door and he said, "Listen, I have to go. I'm going to work on my thesis." I said, "Listen, I have a class." And he said, "I think we need to talk in the afternoon." I said, "Okay." He said, "Let's meet in the park." So I go with my orthodontist because we did this brilliant, like, exchange. I gave him classes and he gave me orthodontics. It was a fantastic. And all the way back on the bus, I was thinking about this long speech I was going to give Carlos as to how
Mhm.
we would never ever see each other again because of this lady who was a gossip. So we get to the park and I blurt out all this stuff and I'm like, "Listen, I'm so sorry about what happened this afternoon," because he's really tall. He's 6'2" and I'm 5'2", 5'3". So I'm going, "I guess we'll never see each other ever again now because this lady's a gossip. And then you lead the youth group in your church and you are the worship leader. And then in my
Mhm.
church, I lead the youth and I'm in the worship band. And I would hate this woman to damage your reputation. So even though I've really fallen for you, I guess this is goodbye." So I kind of hung my head. He said, "Have you finished?" I said, "Yeah, I think so." And he said, "Oh my goodness." He said, "Look, I don't even know if this is the time or the place. I have nothing to offer you. Here is the truth," he said.
Mhm.
"I would really like you to be my girlfriend, and I would love for us to get married." In fact, he
Oh.
said, "My intentions with you have been serious since the very first moment I set my eyes on you. I've been praying for 2 years. I asked God, and every time I saw visions of you, it was always you." He said, "So my intentions are really serious." He said, "I have nothing to offer you. I really don't. I just graduated. But if you will follow these three conditions," he said, "then I suggest we get married in 18 months to 2 years. So here are my three conditions. The first thing
Mhm.
is we have to have our parents' permission and blessing. Then we have to have our pastor's permission and blessing, and our friends as well." He said, "Are
Mhm.
you in for this?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." He said, "Okay. So, all right then, that's it." And that was the proposal. That was it.
Wow.
And I was in shock. He said, "But I don't even know if you would have me." And I'm like, "My word."
Hey, you know what? I need your help. Would you please follow our podcast and give it a 5-star rating or write a review? You see, there's just not that many love story podcasts out there, so we're kind of building a new genre. And that's where you come in. Your interaction with us really helps drive the algorithm that shows our podcast to other people. Besides that, just like hearing from you. So write us a note in the comment section of this episode, because your participation helps us reach more listeners and it keeps the love stories coming. Thank you. So your time to we're gonna have to say goodbye was his time to say no. Let's get married.
Exactly. Isn't that hilarious?
Yes, that's so I love it. And so he said he gave you a time frame of 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the 18th of July, 1994.
So, how, needless to say, he has now professed his love for you, and you were over the moon.
Yes, I really was.
Oh.
I was so over the moon. And if is it, I don't know if I mean, you might cut this out, you might not, but I'd like to just say a few things because I was just so
Mhm.
nervous about really wanting to ensure that he was the one.
Mhm.
I just prayed. I said, "Lord, you're going to have to really prove to me that Carlos is the one." Okay.
Mhm.
So, first of all, the next day he confirmed with a Bible verse. Uh,
Mm. Mhm.
and, like when it talked about when Samuel um, anointed King David, and he said, "Rise and anoint him. This is the one." And the words, "This is the one," like almost jumped off the page. And I thought, really? The next day, no, that day he came and he brought me some beautiful watercolor paintings that he had done for me and a big
Mhm.
envelope because the next day I was going to England for a course. And and again, he said, "I'll be waiting for you." And I thought, really? And then in England, when I was in the midst of 14,000 people in a huge conference, God sent a friend who's a pastor who speaks like Adele. I don't know if you've ever heard Adele speak, but he came up to me and he said, "All right, love, how you doing?" I said, "Hi." Yeah, he said, "I've got a word for you and I don't even understand what it means, but here you go. No more disappointments. That's it." And I said, "Oh my goodness." He said, "Well, I'm off. Bye." And I stood there thinking, wow, 14,000 people, Lord. And then you say, "No more disappointments." Oh, wow, wow, wow. And then there was a sermon that said, "Going from the people of promise to the people of possession." And I had actually had a prophecy on the day I was baptized. The
Mhm.
church prophet stood up and he said, "My child, today is a special day for you. I've chosen a special husband for you, and both of you will travel to the ends of the earth and do great works in my name." And sorry, I get a bit sensitive because it's like, I thought, wow,
Mhm.
Lord, you are so good. And he did all those things. And of course, well, I know I'm talking a lot, but it was just so amazing that he would use those ways to confirm because he knew that my heart needed to receive confirmation that God
Mhm.
was the one.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Confirmation is so important with all of this. And don't apologize. This is your story.
Yeah. Thank
You're not talking too much. I'm here to hear your story.
thank you. Thank you so
Absolutely. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. So, after the conference, you came back and was that after Carlos had said that about marrying? Or was that
Yes, it
before?
was. No, no, no. This was after.
Okay.
This was after. And so the fact that I knew he was waiting for me when I got
Mhm.
back, it just brought so much joy to my heart because God had confirmed through the Bible, He had confirmed through a person, He had
Mhm.
confirmed it through a sermon. And then the day I arrived in England, oh my goodness, I sat at my dad's feet. So he just passed in November.
Mhm.
And I said, "Hey, Dad." I said, "I need your blessing for something." So he said, "Okay." He said, "What is it then?" I said, "Well, I need your permission and blessing to get married." And he was so funny because Dad was a really feisty Scotsman. He said, "Who's the crumb?" Like, and I said, "Oh," I said, "It's Carlos Marquez." I said, "He's a wonderful architect." And he said, "Does he love you?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Do you love him?" He said. I said, "Yes." And he said, "Will he take care of my big girl?" I said, "Yes, Dad, he will." He said, "You have my blessing and you have my permission." And at that very instant, the phone rang and it was Carlos calling from Mexico City.
Oh.
He goes, "Hey," he said, "I'm in Mexico City." He said, "I've just arrived." He said, "I talked to my mom and dad and I've asked for their permission and their blessing. They told me I'm crazy. I'm too young, but they said yes." I said, "Okay." And I was at that time 27 and he was 24 because I'm 3 years older than him. So never say
Oh.
never because I had said I would never marry someone younger than me. Never say never. And so he had his mom and dad's blessing as well at the very same time.
Oh, that's precious. So did he talk to your dad
Uh,
when he
well,
called or
he said hello, but Carlos's English back then was, not much, sort of he could say
Mhm.
hello and that was it. I mean, now he can have a conversation, but he still gets a little bit nervous. He understands
Okay.
everything, but yeah, so.
Oh, that's really special. That's
Yeah,
really, really special.
really special.
Okay. So, um, what role would you say that timing played
Oh my goodness.
in your love story? Because it's things like, you had that you went and then you met him and then it was a couple of years. And
Mm.
so, what would you say?
I think like I'm going to go back to what I said when I got down on my knees in February of '94. Um, I I mean, I had dated a couple of people. I had even been engaged to be married in England to the wrong person, completely the wrong person. I always knew the person was wrong. And that day I said to God, "Okay, Lord, do whatever you want. Really, I don't want to choose. I really ask you to choose because you are my heavenly daddy. You are God, but you're also my father." And it literally felt that God had been waiting all those years for Sheona to actually say, "Okay, I'm relinquishing control." And
Mhm.
literally 6 months later, Carlos asked me to be his girlfriend and wife the same day. So I feel the timing was just so perfect because my heart was ready not to chase, not to strive. It was just, Lord, you do what you want now.
Mm.
And so he was able to bring what he had always had for me, I think, I believe.
Yes. Yes. It's like you're now ready to receive exactly what he had for you.
Yes.
Ah, I love that. Um, any obstacles you guys had to overcome
Massive.
before?
I think we might have been the king and queen of obstacles. But the first thing that happened, Dawn, was 1994 here in Mexico, the peso was devalued.
Mm,
So that meant that people like lost homes, businesses. There was no business for architects or engineers. So
mhm,
financially, it was really dire straits. We postponed the wedding 3 times because there was no money. And Pastor John's wife came up to me one day and said, "Hey, Shiona, are you playing around or do you truly want to get married?" I said, "Come on, of course I want to get married. But the thing is, we don't have any money. I mean, Carlos, the job he had, there was a situation and he was laid off. And my teacher's salary truly wouldn't pay for a wedding, you know."
mhm,
So she said, "Well, I think you should set the date and really stick to it. And that's it. You need to take a step of faith."
mhm,
So that's what we did. And my goodness me, if I were the list of all the things that God provided through other people. Now, somebody who doesn't know God or who maybe isn't interested in following Him yet, who doesn't know Him like the wonderful way we know Him as such a wonderful Father,
mhm,
they might say, "Oh, that's ridiculous. You should have just waited and saved up." But
mhm,
He provided everything in amazing ways when we really did not have the resources at that time. Truly, the country was in a mess financially.
mhm,
But that didn't stop God from providing for every need for our wedding,
mm.
for our home, and even for our honeymoon. I mean, everything.
Wow. Did your parents get to fly over for the wedding?
My dad came over. My mum passed away when I was 18. So
Oh, I'm
dad came
sorry.
over. No, that's okay. Dad came over with his new wife. I was the one who
Mhm.
introduced them. But so yes, he was here for the wedding, and he gave me away. And in
Oh,
fact, my wedding ring, our wedding
mhm.
rings, were a gift from my dad. So that's something that's really
Oh,
special to us.
that is.
Yeah.
That is.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so tell me some of the ways that God provided for you for your wedding.
My goodness gracious me. Well, he provided, for example, we for everything that we did, we had to make choices. So I
Mhm,
was saying things like, "Carlos, I want to have my wedding dress made." He said, "Okay, wedding dress or honeymoon." I'm like, okay, honeymoon." So God provided through a friend. Her daughter lent me her dress, and it was as if it had been made for me. It was
Wow.
beautiful, and that's in the photograph. It was a
Yes.
special silk with lace. That was the first wedding dress, and so
Which, by the way, I'm going to say really quickly, if you don't mind, please go look at her beautiful photos. They're on our website, unexpectedlovestories.com, and you'll see Shiona's beautiful wedding dress. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
thank you. No, it's fine. Then, for example, our wedding cake. Two of our friends said, "We want to buy that for you." So they came in. Another friend said, "I want to buy you a bouquet." Okay. Another friend said to me, "I'm going to pay for the invitations and I'm going to pay for your makeup and your hairstyling, you know. So you're going to have a test, like a trial run, and then the actual wedding day."
Mm,
Um, oh, this was an amazing story. Our friends lent us their garden for us to be able to have a beautiful reception. And Carlos had been expecting a payment for a job he did. Well, the person didn't pay. So the day that our friend did all the catering, like he was a chef, and Carlos had hired some waiters and tables and all everything that you need, tablecloths, and he was literally sweating like crazy. He never told me, but I was wondering what was wrong. He was thinking, how am I going to pay for all this? Well, his ex pastor had arrived from Houston, and he arrived that day and he came apologizing. He said, "Look, Carlos, my suitcase got lost on the way. So I'm not even dressed well for your wedding. And I wasn't able to get your present, but I have something for you." So he
mhm,
handed Carlos a check. And Carlos looked at him. He said, "Oh my goodness." And at that moment, our friend was walking by. He said, "Hey, is everything okay?" He said, "Yeah, my friend's just given me a check." He said, "Oh, okay, don't worry." He said, "I have an account in dollars. So look, let me just deposit that in my account. And what do you want me to do with this?" And Carlos said, "Well, I need to pay the waiters and the chef." "Oh, I'll take care of that." So at that very moment, everything was covered. Another thing,
wow.
his family paid for the mariachi. So we had mariachi band. And if this was not, I mean, this is just amazing. We were about to leave to go to our honeymoon, and I was thinking that the first night before we were going off to the beach, and I thought, oh, I'm going to have to spend money on my credit card for this wedding night because I don't have the cash. Well, guess what? A friend from Puerto Rico went
Hmm.
to my mother in law when we were in this service, and she handed an envelope and she said, "Look, please give this to Carlos, but please make sure that you give it to him in his hands." So she folded the card and thought, oh, okay. She put it in her pocket. We were about to leave, and my mother in law said, "Oh, wait, I have a card from one of your friends. She has a strange accent." So she handed it to Carlos, and
Hmm.
inside was $100. And Carlos
Oh.
said to me, that paid for our wedding night, like for our first night in this lovely hotel. We call it the Camino Real. It's a beautiful hotel in Guadalajara.
Hmm.
It paid for our supper and even our breakfast.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh.
So no credit card there.
I love that. I love that. Oh, okay. So you went to the beach.
Oh,
Where did you head at to?
we went to a place called Ixtapa, which is not so far away from Acapulco. It's a beach there, Ixtapa. It's very quiet. It's more kind of for
Mhm.
people who are either like retired or maybe honeymooning, where you just want something quiet, not crazy, you know, with the
Mhm.
spring breakers. No, a really lovely. And again, we went to the Camino Real Hotel, so uh,
Oh,
very beautiful,
lovely,
very secluded and private. Lovely.
lovely. So I just love that you know God is a loving dad who wanted to take care of his kids
Yeah.
in all the best possible ways, and he does. He does, and he did. I
Yes.
love that so much. Okay, so you've been married how long now?
Next month, on the 24th of February, 29 years.
Woo!
Yes.
All right. Congratulations. And how have you grown together over the years?
Well, just so much. I think in a way, we were like thrown in at the deep end because both of us were away from our families. My family lives in England and his
Hmm.
family is in Mexico City. So all this time, right from when we got married, it's been us. and our church family. And so
Mhm.
we've just grown in every way. We grew, and really had to learn the hard way. Um, I really kind of wish sometimes that I'd had classes in finances at college, at school, somewhere, because even though your
Mhm.
parents will give you like tips, they won't say why. And so we grew together financially. We did go through an awful, well, it was truthfully 25 years of very difficult financial things where we didn't
Mhm.
know how to handle our finances. There were sicknesses and stuff along the way. And when we renewed our vows in February 2021, 25 years, imagine your silver wedding anniversary. And that day, there's a Mexican tradition where they'll put like a lasso on you, like to represent that you're both equally yoked. And there's
Mhm.
something called arras, and they're little coins which represent provision. And he poured them into my hands and he said, as from today, we're going to have enough for all our needs to be able to save and to be able to bless others. And that's exactly what happened. So, like, everything was turned around completely that year. What had happened before, like, it was as if it hadn't happened. So,
Mhm.
even
Mhm.
things, like you grow together, um, we've got ourselves into debt due to sickness, due to different situations, and then we were able to pay. Like in the next couple of years, we were able to pay everything off and be free. And it
Mm.
was like living in Egypt and then going into the promised land, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And I'm bringing this
Ah.
because I guess this is something that maybe some couples don't talk about, but we've grown so
Mhm.
much in this area, and we've learned to be much better administrators. And the minute we started, we always tithed and we gave offerings, but the minute we started doing things differently, even more like with widows and orphans, it was almost like God just started to multiply everything. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And it made us grow as a couple, as a family in every way.
Mm. So do you have kids?
We have kids. We have a daughter who is 27 and a
Uh-huh.
son who's 24. Anna is our oldest, and Samuel or Sammy is our youngest. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
Oh, and
they're
they
so cute. Yes, go ahead.
so are they still there near you or?
Yeah. Can you believe they still live with us? Like, my sister's horrified. And
I can believe it. My 28-year-old daughter and my 24-year-old son still live with us.
oh,
Okay.
thank goodness. Then I won't feel they love it. I mean, Anna has said to me many times, "Hey, Mum, if we didn't love being here, we would have left a long time ago. But we love being
Mhm.
with you guys." So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I have some more questions.
Please go ahead. Yes.
Okay. We have so many people who listen that are looking for love.
Mm,
The people who've dated and it's not, they're not finding the right one. They're getting hurt. Finding out that their boyfriend that they love dearly has cheated on them, or um, thinking that they have something's wrong with them. They have to keep changing
mm,
things about themselves, or do you know what I mean? There's all of those thoughts that go on in my head. Well, you said that you were engaged before and you knew this was not the right one.
yes.
Could you please give some advice for people who are looking for love of what not, not to sink your money in, or not to sink your heart into, and what to do
Yeah,
in preparation?
definitely. I I would say that it would be a great idea if you had true friends, real friends, if you were able to surround yourself with people who could give you good advice. Because at the time when I was in England, when I was with the person who I got engaged to, um, I knew it was the wrong person. Even my mum said before she died, she said, "Oh gosh, he's very nice, but he doesn't have those lovely brown doggy eyes that you love so much." Because she knew I wanted to marry a Latin. And I think that we should really listen to our hearts. if we were truly honest with ourselves, we would know we need to be true to ourselves. And
Mhm.
sometimes you need people who love you enough to tell you the truth.
Mhm.
One of my friends, my house group leader, she said to me, "Look, Sheona," she said, "you had a prophecy when you were baptized. And I don't know if you want to actually really be with the person that God has for you. Because right now, this person you're with, you are literally keeping him away from the woman that God has for him." She loved me enough to
Mm.
say that. And I was like, and it hurt me more to think that I was stopping this person from being with the woman who was really going to be his wife. And she
Yes.
said, "So if you're willing to give him up, if that's what you want, we will support you all the way. But
Mhm.
only you can make that decision." So it was tough love, but I knew I had to make this decision. I wanted to make it, but I needed a nudge. So the advice is to really have good friends, to really listen. And I would really urge you and beg you to seek God. Seek God. He is a matchmaker. He
Mhm.
is a matchmaker. I mean, Derek Prince wrote a book called God is a Matchmaker. It's a beautiful story if you ever get to read it. Um, and God truly is a matchmaker, and He knows what's best for us. But we really need to be listening.
Mhm.
Listen to your parents, listen to your friends, listen to your pastors. Don't just go running in thinking, "Oh, yes, yes, because they were nice to me, this is the right person." There are
Mhm.
signs along the way. There really
Yes.
are. I don't know if that helps. Am I making
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does. I think people too often want a relationship so bad that they'll hold on to any relationship,
Yes.
and it's it can cause pain. It can cause you to miss the best
Yeah.
because you're settling for what's here now. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
if I may say something, Dawn, I had a terrible philosophy when I was a teenager, when I was with the other person. In my mind, I used to say, well, it's better to be badly accompanied than be alone.
Mhm.
I used to honestly think that I didn't want to be alone. And
Yeah.
so I was so lonely. Like, mum had died, dad was off diving, dad was a scuba diver instructor.
Mhm.
My brother had gone off to university. My sister had moved out. So literally, I was alone most of the time.
Mhm.
And so I wanted just to be someone who would be kind to me and take me out. I wanted to fill the void,
Mhm.
and I didn't want to be lonely. But I paid
Mhm.
a really high price because, well, the heartbreak and it's just not worth it. It's really not worth
Yes.
it on both
Yeah.
sides. So
Agreed.
I would like to avoid you. Everybody, hello. Let me avoid you today. Please truly listen to your heart. Listen to what God's saying. Find different ways of confirmation before you jump
Mhm.
head first.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Is there anything before we go that we've missed that you wanted to share
Yeah,
about your story?
sure. I'd like to share that back in 2019, I had a threat of breast cancer, and
Mm.
my oncologist was absolutely sure that it was cancer. The um, the mammography or the mammogram said it was cancer. I mean,
Mhm.
literally, there was an ultrasound. And so I went into that surgery like thinking, okay, I'm probably going to have a double mastectomy.
Mhm.
But all that time, um, my family were praying for me. And I didn't know that Carlos had got up in the early hours of the morning saying, "Look, God, I've never been through this with my wife before, but obviously let your will be done. But please, if it's possible, may it not be cancer." And and God had worked in my heart like 2, 3 weeks before. He'd shown me there were some people I needed to forgive, which I truly, truly, truly forgave from the bottom of my heart. And that day, when I came out of the surgery, and our dear, dear friend, who is also my pathologist, came out,
Mhm.
said it's not cancer. It was
Oh,
two benign tumors. just seeing the look on Carlos's face and my children's face and everybody who walked into the hospital room with me. I remember at that time there were two songs particularly that were really like lifting me up. One was Don Moen's song "God Will Make a Way," and another
Uh-huh.
one was Brian and Jen Johnson, the one about "At the Mention of Your Name."
Hmm.
And I was listening to the song the other day as I was driving, and I was remembering those tender times, just how near Carlos was there with me before the surgery, after the surgery, and just so on board, whatever was
Mm-hmm.
going to happen. And that just means the world to me, just knowing that there's a man there who's so kind and generous and who's grown with
Hmm.
me all these years and who's been with me, my best friend, my husband, um, my intimate partner, my brother in Christ, my lover, so to speak. And
Yes.
he's Carlos. He's just amazing. But
Yes.
it was God's choice. That was God's choice. He is the match.
Hmm.
And so anybody who's listening and you're looking for love, trust and believe. Don't give up because it really does exist.
Hmm.
It really, really does exist.
And it can be the best, better than you can ever dream. Yes.
Yes, yes.
I love that. I love that. This is just a beautiful story, Shiona. I love this. Tell our friends how they can get in touch with you if they want to come down to Guadalajara
Yeah.
and, and meet you,
Well,
or if they just want to reach out to you. And please share any ministry items that you have that they can take part in.
oh,
Please.
thank you, thank you. Well, you can send a friend request to Sheona Mackie. I think Don will have my name written. Well,
Yes.
it's here on the screen, actually. There we are, Sheona Mackie in Facebook, and on Instagram it's Mackie Sheona. Um, I haven't actually posted anything, like when I lead worship at church and when I do
Mhm.
ministry. Truthfully, I have kept it private, kind of, so to speak, because I've not been the kind of person like wanting to be out there upfront about it, but it's something I do all the time. So maybe in the
Mhm.
future it's going to be more out there, and I'll definitely be opening up a page about my life consultancy and the interpreting too. So, but for the moment, yes, I am on Facebook and Instagram, and on this,
Okay.
yeah,
Under Mackie Shiona.
in on Instagram and Shiona Meki in Facebook.
Okay, and Shiona Mackie on Facebook.
Yeah,
All right. Got that, got that, got that. All right. We love this. And we look forward to hearing more from you in the
thank you.
future.
Thank you.
And please, 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 everyone, go to our website so we can see pictures of the wedding. I can tell you they're absolutely gorgeous. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Love Unexpected. Until next time, I hope everyone just keeps hope alive and be blessed. Bye. Listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Please connect with us and share your comments about this episode on YouTube, Spotify, or whatever streaming platform you use. We want you to become a part of the conversation. So please go to our website, unexpectedlovestories.com, and share your love story with us. You can find a link to it in our episode guide. And while you're there, check out the photos of couples from each episode. We'd love you to share our podcast with your family and friends so that they can enjoy these stories as well. Unexpected Love Stories can be found on all their favorite podcast platforms.